Hello and welcome back, or welcome to the Brakefield Show. I am your host, Brakefield. I hope you're listening on either Spotify, Apple, or YouTube. I post weekly on YouTube as well, so shout out to YouTube. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe to all three. Help me out, help a brother out. It's Thursday evening, right before the weekend gets started. I'm looking forward to hopefully a nice, relaxing weekend. Nothing crazy going on. Just gonna be chilling, watching some ball, more than likely all weekend long. Currently getting ready for this Titans Packers game to kick off. I thought that was a cool little story that Aaron Rodgers and Marshawn Lynch did together. You know what? I've always wondered. I never see a whole lot about that because I knew that they had played in college together, but I never have seen any news articles or stories or like anything on Instagram, Twitter, anything like that. I've never seen anyone really acknowledge that they played together in college, which I thought was pretty cool to see their little time that they had there together. But today's show layout, we're gonna be hitting a couple news things. Not a whole lot going on. Nothing too crazy. Sad deal up there in Moscow, Idaho. Those four college kids that were murdered by one guy. If you haven't heard about that, go look at it on Twitter or TikTok or anything. It's a nasty deal. It's really gross. It's in Idaho, which of all places. I grew up in Montana, so it's weird. I thought crime was bad down here in Louisiana, but it just seems to be going everywhere. But sad deal. Prayers out to the families of the victims and whatnot. It's just, I guess it was one of the gruesomest murders that policeman's ever seen. But I'm like, it's Moscow, Idaho. How many people? How many murders have they seen? So nasty deal there. But a couple other news things. Gonna hit one love, one hate segment. And my top 10 favorite college games of the week, where I'm putting my money, and then my 5 favorite NFL games of the week, where I'm putting my money. College football season is sadly coming to an end here. We only have 2 weeks left. I'm gonna have to pretty much reinvent my whole show after that's done, but we'll figure it out. NFL, we still got a ways to go here. So, but definitely excited for this Titans Packers game tonight. I think it should be a good one. I'm gonna ride Packers tonight. I put a little bet together before I started recording of and I'm going to jinx myself again. I'm not even going to talk about it because I said that about A.J. Brown, and then the Eagles lost, and they didn't, and A.J. Brown never scored touchdowns. I'm not even going to tell you my bet because I feel like I'm always a mush. All my picks always seem to go wrong. We'll see how the Cleveland report does tomorrow. Pray for Chaos Parlay is going to be a good one, I think, as well. So probably going to have to write it. But a couple news things here. Tom Brady sent out a big long text to Antonio Brown, talking about how he doesn't like people that he's surrounded him with, how AB's a better person than this, all this stuff, and AB, still being the child and the clown that he is, proceeds to screenshot it and post it on his Snapchat, which I think just makes him look worse, when you could tell Tom Brady was trying to be genuine and wasn't happy with the way his friend was living his life, and so he felt the need to speak his mind, which is totally fair as a friend, and AB decides to still be a child about everything and post it online, which I just thought was a childish move. And I'm like, you obviously don't value anybody's friendship. That's not somebody I'd personally want to be associated with. So he's just a loser at this point in his life. But by far the biggest NFL news has to be, well, I don't know, we'll see. Ndamukong Suh signing with the Eagles today, because it just makes them more dominant up front, especially with Jordan Davis being out for a little bit. They're going to be able to mix more guys in now once, Jordan Davis comes back. And then Ndamukong Suh, I mean, he's won a Super Bowl. He was one of the best defensive tackles in the NFL for about, 8 to 10 years straight. He was the best defensive tackle in the NFL, other than maybe Aaron Donald, depending on what you consider him. But, I mean, an absolute force. He hasn't played yet this year, so hopefully he's still in shape. But I think he can be an absolute weapon for the Eagles now and make them even better than their defense already is, especially up front in that front four, because, you can mix and match and kind of move things around. So we'll see what happens there. But they're definitely going to make them even more of a contender, in my opinion. They've just racking up the dudes this year. Like, they're a team that's just full of dudes and guys that you can name. That's why everyone loves them, because it's like, oh yeah, I know that guy, I know that guy, I know that guy, I know that guy. Like, geez Louise, man, they're just loading up, and it's absolutely insane. The other big piece of news that was floating around the NFL this week was somebody, I don't remember who, but I'd give him a shout out, I guess. Somebody found out that Trent Williams is tipping his plays. I think when it's a pass play, he's kind of sitting more back. When it's a run play, he's kind of more down on the ground, ready to, attack forward. And then you get this whole debate of ex-NFL guys saying, oh, he's not tipping what the play is, yada, yada, yada. And then you have all the football nerds and the guys that don't play in the NFL that are all like, I don't know, it looks to me like he's tipping, because whoever this guy was, he went through every single play, and every time he would look at Trent Williams, and depending on if it was a pass, he'd be sitting back. If it was a run, he was always sitting forward every single play. So I'm like, that's pretty evident to me, at least, that he's kind of tipping what they're gonna do. So whatever. I'm not an NFL expert. I guess I didn't play in the league. It's just the information I've seen. A little bit of Hollywood news that I gave a shit about. Not the Taylor Swift stuff. No one cares if you couldn't buy her tickets. I don't understand why everyone likes Taylor Swift. She's makes some bangers here and there, but really it's never that good. But my biggest piece of Hollywood news out of this week, Quentin Tarantino is apparently working on a limited series, 8-episode project, I guess is what you'd call it. Not sure on what platform it's going to be on, but eight little mini movies almost in a sense, because usually the episodes are 50 to an hour long, so you're getting about 2-3 full movies. So interested to see what it's going to be about, interested to see who he casts. He always seems to have very stellar and wild and amazing casts all put together. They're just always brilliant. So I personally love his movies, so I'm excited for that. I think it could be something that's hopefully really cool and kind of one of those limited series that just kind of pops off and people talk about for a long time. And then the weirdest piece of news I saw this week has to be that there's this flock of sheep located in Mongolia that just is continuously going in circle. Just keep on going in circle and circle and circle. They've been doing it for 10 days straight and no one knows why. Devil, man, that's all I gotta say. I think it's the devil, because sheeps are like a notorious animal that is related to Satanism and all that stuff. So it's gotta be the devil. That's my guess. That's my prediction. I'd be surprised if that's not the case, because we're living in the end of times. Point blank period. The world's coming to an end. We all know it. Now for my one love, one hate. This week I'm loving on soup. Little bit cold down here in Louisiana. I'm getting really acclimated. It got down to the 50s, 60s, and I was literally freezing my ass off the past couple days. Well, my family in Montana has been dealing with like 20-degree, 10-degree weather, and I'm down here dealing with the 50, just as cold as they probably are. Not really, but when you do the math and the numbers, it just makes sense. But point blank period, been having soup the past couple days. I started a new medicine a while ago that was really fucking with my stomach. Was eating a lot of soup then too. Soup is always top tier. You can never go wrong with soup. Soup is one of the best things that the Lord has ever created for us. I love soup. There's never a bad time for soup unless it's like 100 degrees outside. Then you're like, I can't really eat soup. But once it gets down to even the 70s, dude, a nice bowl of soup. I had a nice bowl of clam chowder for lunch today. Campbell's Chunky. To die for. That's what wakes me up in the morning right there. But I am hating on something that I might get some hate for, even myself. I don't know. With Thanksgiving around the corner, I'm hating on stuffing. I hate stuffing. It tastes disgusting to me. It tastes like wet, soggy bread. I just don't like stuffing. I've never liked stuffing. Every time when Thanksgiving comes around, I would make sure not even touch the stuffing. I've tried it before and I still don't like it as an adult. So I hate you stuffing. Please stay out of my life. I already instructed the wife, we're not having stuffing on Thanksgiving because it'll make me throw up. It won't, but that's how much I hate it. So I'm sorry if you're a stuffing fan, but I'm just not a stuffing guy, and I'm sorry if that hurts your feelings, but I really don't give a shit. So that's that. Moving on to my top 10 favorite college football games of the weekend. Like I said last week, a lot of these games are going to be more focused on playoff outcome, conference championships, the important stuff that all matters. I saw, there's been a lot of turmoil this week about the playoff rankings. People weren't happy that LSU's at 6 and USC's at 7, but I think that makes more sense to me. Then there was the clip of Stephen A. Smith going around where he was saying that TCU doesn't have the resume that Ohio State, Michigan, and Georgia do. When, in my personal opinion, I think TCU's resume is better than all three, and their strength of record shows that, and their strength of schedule shows that. It's all higher than the other three. And he couldn't even go look at his own network that he works for website where all that information is listed. It was basically just put out for clips. Like, he doesn't watch college football. He's not in tune as the rest of us, more than likely. So stop blowing it up. Stop making it get more clicks, because it's a stupid take. It's just everyone should know that. That's all I saw was people saying this makes no sense. This makes no sense. Do you even watch college football? Look at the strength of record. Look at the strength of schedule. It was ridiculous. But, getting closer, 2 weeks left. So I'm praying for a lot of chaos because that's what I love to see in college football, and it always brings it at some point. I have a feeling it really could be this weekend. Starting off here, Illinois, Michigan. Michigan's ranked third still. Illinois, it would look better for Michigan's resume if Illinois would have been in a better spot coming into this game, not fresh off with just two, or is it two or three straight losses now? I think it's only two back-to-back losses. Oh no, it's only one because they lost two and then they won one, then they lost one. Sorry. Fresh off their loss to Purdue, Illinois is kind of sitting in a bad spot right now. Michigan could have used them being higher ranked, being possible top 15, top 20 would have looked a lot better for their resume, especially if they were lose to Ohio State and then Illinois played Ohio State close. It'd look better for their resume to get into the playoff. But I mean, even if Illinois, plays Michigan close, and then they still somehow make the Big Ten championship, which I think if they lose, they're pretty much eliminated. So that could hurt them. I don't know. I think Brett Bielema's going to come out having the Fighting Illini ready to rumble. The thing that excites me the most about this game is the chance to watch Chase Brown and Blake Corum pretty much go head to head. I mean, there's been a lot of talk about who the better running back is this year. Everyone's saying Blake Corum more than likely just because he plays at Michigan, but Chase Brown has been carrying the Illinois offense. He's been an absolute force and wrecking ball to deal with this season. So I'm excited to see what he can do, kind of see where more Michigan's defense is at too. If Chase Brown's able to have a stellar game, there's going to be a lot of question marks if Michigan can stop the run. I mean, you go against a team like Georgia, like I was almost going to say there, they're going to pound you with the ball. So very interesting to see where Michigan's defense is going to be at. Excited to see if Illinois is, just had a couple down games and they're kind of bouncing back up. I'm taking Illinois plus 18 here. I think the game's going to be a lot closer. I'm thinking more like 14-17, so I'm going to take Illinois plus 18. I think there's somehow a chance that if it's just not Michigan's day, a look-ahead spot for them to the big game with Ohio State next weekend, there's a chance that Illinois comes out. Brett Bielema, he's won games like this before, so I think there's a small chance Illinois could upset, and I might put them in the Pray for Chaos parlay because that's just how much of a wild boy I am. Next game, TCU, Baylor. Like I said, all the talk about TCU last week, all that doesn't matter. TCU is going to make the college football playoff. They're going to win these next two games, and then they're going to win the Big 12 championship, and they're going to go to the playoff. And I bet they're going to win a game. I said it last week or last episode. I have a lot of faith in TCU. I think they beat Baylor pretty easily. I'm taking TCU minus 2.5. I don't feel like Sonny Dykes doesn't have this team prepared. I mean, they're battle diverse. They have big wins like every other week or something like that, but they just keep finding ways to win. I think they're going to do that this weekend against Baylor, and I think they cover the spread. Kansas State, West Virginia, Kansas State can inch a lot closer to locking up a spot in the Big 12 championship. They need to win their next two games, and they're in. As far as I know, I didn't do too much research or digging in to see like if they were to win this one and lose next week or lose this one and win next week, like what that all is. I didn't dig too much, but they control their own destiny. They're at the head of the table right now. They win their next two, they're in. I think that they can beat West Virginia. I really do, but West Virginia has been a weird team this year. They've played like shit at times, but then they've come out of nowhere and they've kept it close. I mean, they beat Oklahoma last week. I'm going to take the over here at 54.5. I feel like it's going to be, Kansas State is going to put up 40, West Virginia put up 20 or 35, 24, something like that. I feel like it's going to be a high-scoring game. I do think Kansas State might come out on top, but I do think there's a small chance that West Virginia just plays one of those agents of chaos this weekend and upsets Kansas State. Georgia, Kentucky, last real test for Georgia before the SEC championship. They got Georgia Tech next week, so nothing to worry about there. They should take care of business there. I mean, it is a rivalry game, so you never know, but we'll see what happens here with Kentucky. Their dismal performance last week against Vanderbilt and Will Levis's lack of ability. I usually don't take spreads this big, but the spread's at 22.5. I'm going to take Georgia minus 22.5. I think Georgia just kind of tears Kentucky up, although it is at home. So part of me was like, I almost lean Kentucky, but I'm like, the way Will Levis played last week and all the shit I was talking about him, he's not going to perform good. It's just probably wrong. I probably just jinxed it. So I would take Kentucky money line because now they're somehow going to pull off the upset. Maybe I just put it in reverse. I don't know. Just pick one of those two would be my guess. Ohio State, Maryland, kind of the same thing for Ohio State as Michigan, could be a look ahead spot with the big game against Michigan next week. Maryland is a good team. I mean, they're 6-4 right now. They've had ups and downs. I mean, their offense is there. I think this could be a huge shootout game, but much like the Illinois Michigan game, I'm going to ride the underdog here. Maryland plus 27.5. I could see Maryland keeping it at about 24. I really can. I think this game's going to be a lot closer than people think it should be. And like I said, I think both Ohio State and Michigan are going to kind of not be locked in looking ahead to next week. So it's going to be Illinois and Maryland pushing for some upsets this week. And shit, if they were both to pull off some upsets, the college football world would be shook because the Big Ten would probably eliminate itself because they'd be like, how did you guys lose to those teams, when they're good football teams, in my opinion. So we'll see. But I think Maryland plus 27.5 is the bet there. Miami, Clemson. Clemson's back in the top 10. And I know that Miami has been bad this year, but so has Clemson. Clemson hasn't been as good as their record shows, in my opinion. I think Miami's going to somehow come out and win this game, get themselves bowl eligible. Mario Cristobal is just going to somehow have the right game plan in place, and it's just going to be an absolute shit show for Clemson. They're not going to have their offense going, and Miami is going to pull off the upset. Probably put them in the pray for chaos parlay because I'm just a wild boy like that. Tennessee, South Carolina, the next game that makes my big heart jiggle. I don't know. I was going to say something about, but, whatever. I may just be wanting this to happen in this game. I may just be wanting Tennessee to go into the cockpit and get beat up by the Cocks. I think the Gamecocks somehow are just magically are going to win this game. I just looked at it and I was like, the spread, Tennessee is pretty favored. I really like it. But then the more I sat there and just looked at the game, I was like, South Carolina is going to win this one. South Carolina is going to pull off the upset somehow and basically ruin Tennessee's season. So I'm going South Carolina money line. Shane Beamer's just going to put together a masterclass of a game plan. It's going to be a wild ride. It's going to come down to the wire, and somehow South Carolina is going to come out on top. I don't know. That's what I think is going to happen. So, whatever. We'll see what happens. USC, UCLA. USC is the biggest hope for the Pac-12 to get a team in the playoff. This is the biggest USC-UCLA game in years. Lincoln Riley versus Chip Kelly at the Rose Bowl, a sold-out crowd under their standards. This is the first time this game has mattered in a really long time, honestly. It's going to be a really good game. I mean, like I said, Lincoln Riley, Chip Kelly, two very good offensive minds. I think they're going to have a right game plan in place. I really do like the over here. But going back to USC, they have to win this game. If they lose this game, there's no way in hell a two-loss Pac-12 championship team will get in the playoff, even though their resume might show that they deserve it because the top half of the Pac-12 has looked really good this year, and they've all beat up on each other. So that could place into their advantage if some chaos ensued. But I think UCLA is going to win this game. I really do. The Pac-12 is going to shoot itself in the foot. Lincoln Riley, he always seems to lose these kind of games, in my opinion. So I'm just going to go UCLA money line. I think Chip Kelly gets the job done here. We'll see what happens, but that's just what I'm riding this week. The possible, I would say, second biggest game of the weekend, and it's the second biggest game in the Pac-12, is Utah versus Oregon. Both teams have 2 losses. One is non-conference, the other is in conference. I think that if you lose this game, whether Utah or Oregon, you are more than likely out of the Pac-12 championship game, because especially if USC were to win, they're going to lock in their spot there. So both these teams really need this win, and I really, really didn't know who to pick here. So I looked at my wife. She was sitting in the office with me when I was doing my show prep. I was like, who would you pick, Utah or Oregon? And she said Oregon, so that's the pick. I'm going Oregon money line here. Utah's favored at -2.5. I think Oregon wins this game. I like Bo Nix. This game is at home. I have a little bit more faith in them. They had that upsetting loss to Washington, but they still can get back to the Pac-12 championship and still win it. I think a win would really almost damn near secure their spot if they can beat Oregon State next week, which will be a tough game for them as well. But I think Oregon, I'm riding with what my wife said, Oregon money line. That's the pick. The last game, and this was a hard one to find, but what the 10th game would be, Georgia Tech, North Carolina. I just kind of wanted to shout out Drake May again because I've been on Drake May for a couple weeks now. I mean, I liked him early in the season. I've kind of talked about North Carolina quite a bit, but I really do love Drake May. I think they will win. I think they'll cover the spread, but I'm more confident in the over at 62.5 because North Carolina has been weird on defense at times, and if the offense isn't necessarily there, which I don't think that that's ever going to be the case until Drake May is gone. So I'm taking the over there at 62.5. I think there's going to be quite a few points. Big game for Drake May. Just going to keep doing what he does. Now moving to my 5 favorite NFL games of the weekend. Starting off with Browns versus Bills game. I'm kind of talking about it more just because of what the news has been about it. It's supposed to be 6 feet of snow in Buffalo, so they end up moving the game to Detroit. So we'll see what happens. At first, if it was going to still be in Buffalo or they moved to Cleveland, I was like, I feel like in Cleveland it's still going to be cold. But since Detroit has a dome, I really thought it was going to be kind of a slugfest game. But because it's in a dome, I literally switched once I found out it was in Detroit from the under to the over at 42.5. I feel there's going to be a lot of points in this game. Nick Chubb's going to get a couple tutties. Josh Allen's going to throw like 3 or 4. It's just going to be one of those games where points are just scored. So I'm taking the over at 42.5 there. I think the Bills do bounce back, though, and win this game. Eagles, Colts. Eagles just lost their first game of the season. Sometimes you want to get that first loss out of the way because it kind of, in a sense, it's over with. You don't have to worry and hear all the noise of what if you go undefeated? What if you go undefeated? What if you go undefeated? It's like, okay, we lost the game. Perfect. We're done talking about it. No more undefeated season. I mean, the Eagles, just brought in Ndamukong Suh. The locker room vibe, it seemed like after the loss was like, whatever, it's good. We got a loss out of the way. We're all right. We're still good. But I don't know why. I just feel like the Eagles are going to go on a little bit of a weird downhill turn here, and they're going to lose to the Colts. So I'm going Colts money line. After I saw that win on Sunday, I'm now rooting for after I saw that win on Sunday, I'm rooting for Saturday, if you get what I mean. Yeah, I know, it's a stupid little pun there. But I'm going to take Colts money line. I don't know why. I just have a weird feeling that the Colts are somehow going to win this game. I just do. Cowboys, Vikings. I really don't know how the Cowboys are favored in this game. I mean, I know the Vikings haven't looked great, but I mean, they've gotten quite a few wins, and they just keep seeming to find ways to win no matter what and getting the job done. So I'm taking Vikings money line. I think the spread was 2.5, maybe 3 in Cowboys' favor, which just does not make sense to me. This game's back at home for Minnesota. They're back at home. They don't have to worry about travel. They just got back. They had the whole week to rest in their own home, practice at home, all that stuff. So I'm going Vikings money line. I don't get why the Cowboys are favored. It just doesn't make sense to me. I know that you might not be a big fan of Kirk Cousins or whatever, but I don't know what Vegas thinks they know, but I think they're wrong on this one. Bengals Steelers, a rematch of week 1 where the Bengals got dominated up front and almost came back and pulled off the upset and not the upset, but the comeback in overtime. The Steelers in that game, they beat the shit out of Joe. The offensive line looked horrible, and then they followed it up the next week against Micah Parsons. They looked horrible. I'm curious to see what's going to happen here. I think I'm going to ride with the under. I feel like the Steelers don't have the offensive power, and I think that the Bengals are going to find a way to sneak out a couple good drives, get a couple touchdowns. I think that they'll win, but the Steelers, their offense hasn't looked great most of the season. I mean, Matt Canada kind of put together a decent week last week, but I think I'm going to go just with the under. I do think the Bengals will win, though, and with TJ Watt back, he could put a lot of pressure on. Oh, you know what? No, Steelers are going to win because there's a stat going around that after every team, after they play the Panthers, and even if they have a bye week the next week, they lose their next game. So Steelers money line is actually the pick. I totally forgot about that. So I'm going to say that, and it's not going to work. So Steelers money line. Last game to close out the show here. Chiefs versus Chargers, another Sunday night game for the Chargers. This one's back at home. The spread was set at 6, I believe. 6, maybe even 7 in the favor of the Chiefs. The Chargers at times this year have looked really good, and at times you're kind of like, what are they doing? They consistently have guys injured, it seems like, too. I think the Chiefs are going to win this one, but I do feel like there's going to be a lot of points had. The over-under's at 50.5. I'm taking the over. I don't feel that there's a way that doesn't hit, in my opinion. I just like it, everything about it. I think Justin Herbert has himself a decent game, and I feel like, the Chiefs are going to do Chief things and just keep getting the job done. But that's today's show. I hope you have a great weekend. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Send it to someone that you're thankful for with Thanksgiving coming up around the corner. I appreciate you. I love you. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. But for now, your boy Titties is out.